Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cactus Patch. I am your host, Glitch Cactus, but you can call me Cactus. Today, we have a little more serious side of topics for today, and that is in regards to community safety. And today, to discuss that, we have on Cyren. Cyren, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited for this upcoming weekend. Otherwise, pretty chill. In Canada, today's a holiday, so don't have to work either. I only have 2 work days this week before I get to go to MomoCon, so that's also pretty hype.
That's gotta feel so nice, just knowing you came off of like a weekend and like an extended weekend, then well, probably dragging days, and then another, what, 4 or 5 days of just
Yeah,
nonstop
yeah,
enjoyment.
yeah. Because I have Monday off too, so it'll be 2 long weekends, two super long weekends in a row. Um, so very excited about that. But on the flip side, like you said, those 2 days are going to be rough of work. I'm going to be trying to fill in like a week's worth of work just because I'll
Mhm.
feel bad like
If you leave
leaving other
anything,
things for my
yeah.
coworkers. Yeah.
I feel it all the time. At MomoCon, I know you're doing commentary. Are you also TOing? Are you playing? Like, what are you gonna be doing at MomoCon?
I am going to be totally honest and just say I'm going to be enjoying myself as much as possible. I am not going to be TOing. That'll be up to Raze and Seacant to do. I'll
Mhm.
probably end up doing something anyways. That's usually how it goes because they know that I can do it. So they'll be like, oh, we just need an extra hand for a second. And then I'll be busy for like three
Yeah.
hours. But uh, honestly, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. But well, anytime Splatoon is not happening, I am going to be out, sipping a margarita, or
Out on the
spending my
sidelines.
life savings. Yeah.
Is there, besides Splatoon, is there anything you're most like excited for MomoCon?
There's going to be a rave. And
Wait, what?
yeah, there's a rave, and they have like a couple like international DJs coming for that. I don't think I've been to like an actual rave in a really long time.
Uh-huh.
So I'm very excited to be going to that with Rissa, who I know definitely does that in her normal lifestyle. She'd be going to raves, so
Wait, that's so dope. I think someone had mentioned when Popgun did like on a previous podcast said that there's like oh no, sorry. It was Loink yesterday. Um oh my gosh, why am I blanking on their name? But they mentioned that there's like a wrestling arena at MomoCon.
yes, there
Like
is.
what?
And you last year you couldn't get to the vendor hall from the Splatoon area without passing by the wrestling area. There's like 3 rooms that are lined up back to back. So there's like
Mhm.
the big gaming room with Splatoon in it. Then you go through a door, then it's wrestling and cool cars. Like they'll have like the Steven Universe van, like something
Oh
else like
wait, that's
themed
so
around like an anime.
dope.
Yeah, they'll have like recreations of different cars. I think
Hmm.
they have that going on again this year, if the layout is at all similar. So I'm honestly excited. I liked walking through the cars. I'm not a car person at all, but like if you like seeing cool stuff, it's nice.
Yeah, like this will be my first time going to like a I always just relate it to I guess just cons in general. I when I tell my friends I'm going to this event, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to like it's similar to like a Comic Con, but like yeah, I've never been. So like hearing all this cool stuff that's just gonna be there, it's just like this is like next level from what I'm used to for like Splatoon lands.
Yeah, and it's massive. I honestly, if anyone is listening and is going, bring shoes that you are comfortable walking in for extended periods of time. Uh, like I know Rissa probably had like 20 band-aids on her feet by the time we left
Oh
last year.
my
It
god.
was yeah, it was crazy. Like the walk from the hotel isn't that big, but then you're walking through like 2 main foyers and then there's like 5 escalators and it's just huge. Like
Yeah,
this
just a
venue is
lot of walking.
nothing compared to the Kalahari is like nothing compared to this. It's just huge. So be prepared.
I'm literally staring at like my shoes I have on the side of which one I'm gonna be packing. So I make sure I'm nothing but comfortable. So for those that maybe don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, okay. Well, I hope people know my name by now, but it is Cyren. Because I say that as in it's literally up on the screen. You can
Yeah.
see it. But um, I am a TO of 3 years. three or so years. Commentator of 7. Geez, wow.
Wow.
And competitive player since Splatoon 2 came out. So 2017, that's another 7 years, right?
Hmm.
Um, I started TOing for Shine 2022. I ran that event, and that was like my first on my own event. And then other than that, it was Low Tide City 2022. Those were the first two, like stepping into it. Um, but yes, I am very old comparatively to the scene. I've been here for quite some time, and I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon.
I feel that it's like it's so funny because like every time I'll see some kind of new player pop up or like find out like a really good player's age, it's like dang, I'm really feeling like the club penguin with like the cane right now. Just the older you get being in this scene.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And sometimes even like my teammates, like I'll mention that I'm 26 and passing, and they'll go like, "Ugh," like come on, man.
Have they? I know, like for most people, it's like they get called Onk, but have you been called like an auntie or anything yet?
No, I still get onked.
Oh,
I
you
still
still
get
get
unked,
Onk?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's unk status. Unk, I think, has become like a non-gendered term.
Yeah.
Anyone can be
I
unk.
figured.
Auntie just doesn't have that same ring to it.
It
So,
really doesn't. All right. Well, follow up then. How did you even get into Splatoon? Like, what take me to like the start of what got you interested in this game and to pretty much where you are today, right? What was the first stepping block?
oh gosh. Well,
And I'm making you
just a
think here.
little quaint YouTuber called Sugar Conroy started playing Splatoon
Yes.
1 on his channel. Yes. And
I love that
I
game.
saw it and I was like, this game looks so cool. I want to try it. So around the time my boyfriend got like a Wii U, and I think I totally hijacked it. Like I just stole it, and it stayed at my house for like a month, and I was up like every night, 3 a.m. playing Splatoon. And eventually, like, I'd fall asleep to YouTube videos, and then at some point, the algorithm brought me to like competitive Splatoon YouTube, where I was like watching Dude, I was
Hmm.
watching all sorts of VODs from like old endgame lands like Squid Storm. There was a few other ones, like online events as well, which was rough back then because we only had spectator cam, so commentators had to work twice as hard to really understand the full scope of what was going on in the game at any time.
Sounds
But
about right.
yep, yep. But yeah, that was more or less how I got into it. I just kind of naturally progressed into the rabbit hole of competitive Splatoon, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. But very tail end of Splatoon as far as the online culture and like the hype had kind of died down. It was right before Splatoon 2 dropped. So
Okay.
it figured like, yeah, I was kind of like, this is the perfect timing now that the next game is coming out for me to get into it because it'll kind of drop us off all at the same place and I won't be so behind.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm glad that I did because now I'm here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really is like I guess a good way to think about it is like, especially I know that's what a lot of people did for content. Like there was a lot of content creators that I know had a huge spike up when Splatoon 3 dropped because that's kind of when they started riding the wave of like, I'm gonna get into content this time or I'm gonna get into competitive. And we saw a lot of competitive teams, quote unquote rise and fall, but mainly like they rose and then disbanded. But due to like the start of Splatoon 3, just because that was like a prime time for the best of the best are trying to figure out what actually works now, and then people that are just kind of like naturally gifted with like the mechanics or something, so they're able to just skyrocket up in skill. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
So at what point was your first ever time like TOing, right? So you started competitive, kind of started Splatoon 2. You started, probably playing a little bit more competitively. What was actually the first team you joined or were a part of?
The first team. Oh wow. Okay.
Now that I think about it,
So
because I know you're on ATP right now and you've been for a while. Um, but like, what was like the first like comp team you joined up when you started getting into competitive Splatoon? Is the start of S2?
there's like two answers to this technically.
Okay.
I joined a quote unquote squad for like a day. It was called Squid Squad. I actually met some other people who came from there as well.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna
Um,
say that's not the first time I've heard that name before.
there's definitely, I mean, it's such like insert generic Splatoon team name. Like you could probably punch that in a chat GPT and they would come up with like Squid Squad
Yeah.
as like a team name, right? So, but like this is like 2017, old.
Mhm.
Like Squid Boards is where I think I found them too.
Okay.
Where they made me join the team on Squid Boards as well. But I must have been there for like a day before I found my actual group. I met some folks on Overdrive, which is going to perk some ears up. I think there also has been a couple other teams named Overdrive since this one,
Hmm.
but those who know will know. They were trying to give back to the scene at the time a little bit. They were picking up players who were admittedly like quite like below their skill level and not really keeping them on as like team members, but as more like trainees. And I was like
Okay.
super grateful for that. Yeah, I don't think I've seen a lot of teams ever do this ever since.
Obviously, I don't think anyone does
Uh
that anymore.
yeah, no, really. But this team was picking up a couple gerbs, a couple babies, and just trying to like help them get better at the game.
Yeah.
But they honestly ended up being like huge. It was like a pretty low point in my life. I was very lonely at the time. So I became friends with them very quickly. Some of them I still talk to today. Uh, and they definitely left an impact both with me and like I think the scene at the time, maybe not always for the best reasons. They were they definitely were part of a few controversies.
Hmm.
But like those who went to Squidstorm 2017, like that name may have rung some bells, or people who have even watched the VODs for the event. They had a huge upset in pools over Tomo, which like is Kyo's old team. For a good
Okay.
reference point, that was like Kyo's first team. It was one of the best teams in the game. They beat Tomo in pools and then went on to take a game off of STDX, which also might be a
Yeah, I'm
name
about to
that's
say
not
that
familiar
name
to the other old
rings a
heads.
little
Yeah.
familiar to me.
Yeah, that was like the team back in the day. They won like every tournament, full villain run. They won the 2017 Splatoon World Championships with a slightly different roster. At one point, Kibber was on there, Power was on there. Like those were like the teams that like they were also pretty well known for at the time too.
Hmm.
So a lot of familiar faces, and like that team had like one of the players that like inspired me a lot when I was getting into the game, Panguit, and he was like a crazy blaster player. Like definitely wouldn't be playing blasters if he didn't make me think they were like the coolest weapon back in the day. So yeah.
All right. I mean, honestly, you're giving me a history lesson here. This is why I love talking to like more like veteran-esque players in the scene because like there's so much I feel like when I joined Splatoon, I really missed out on like a really like core moment in like the
Mhm.
history of the game and just the community because like I always hear like it was like oh yeah like 2018 2019 like there was this there was that I'm like man if I was only interested in this game a little bit sooner and not so like focused on like being a high schooler.
Yeah, no, I guess that's the benefit of being like a high school dropout for a couple years. I didn't graduate till like 2019,
Hmm.
even though like I was supposed to graduate in 2016.
Hmm.
I was out here too busy playing Splatoon and having copious health issues. But like, yeah, like back then, I hate saying this now, because maybe this is just like my old lady brain and like I just don't have the capacity to remember everybody's name anymore. But
Hmm.
like it is really true that like everybody knew who the other person was for the most part.
Yeah.
Uh, it was a very intimate scene, and I think that's kind of what has helped a lot of people like Dude or Chara build up like the rapport in the scene is that like we have all known each other. So it's really easy like I don't know, I feel like a lot of people know who I am and I think I can mostly credit that to the fact that like I've just been here long enough to have
Yeah.
grassroots and connections with so many people who were from the same place that I am.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think a lot of things that like help push a lot of people Especially like I guess the newer gen players. I say that as like the players that like kind of started like maybe like I did kind of towards the end of S2, start of S3. Um, really was just like the content boom because that's when like a lot of those players maybe played Splatoon 2 or like just in general started getting into Splatoon like were old enough to kind of have those resources to play the game either competitively or just in general, just be able to make like Twitch streams out of it or YouTube content, or of course now TikTok content and all the short form content we have out there. So I feel like a lot of names that like sparked up from there, including myself, honestly, was just because of the content opportunities that arose from that kind of start of it. So it's really cool to see like
Mhm.
you kind of see like I guess the generations of Splatoon players of like who knows who and like how I like to think I'm part of that little weird little middle ground where it's like I know a lot of people who are kind of like since the beginning, but now I'm also still knowing all the new people that are out there, and it's like like I feel like the awkward middle child where it's like you know a lot, but like you still get blamed for certain things.
No, I totally get that, and I feel like there is like a good advantage to have come in so late. It's now your brain isn't clogged with all these people who used to play but don't really do anymore.
Hmm.
Like that's taking up so much real estate for me.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's never gonna come up again. It's not gonna be relevant. So, uh, it is unfortunate, but like people move on with their lives. They find new hobbies. I
Yeah.
this just happens to be our hyperfixation forever, I guess.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I feel that. I always like to think um, oh, what am I gonna do when I retire from Splatoon? And it's just like I can't. Like I'm too deep. I'm too deep into it. All right, so back onto what I was originally trying to ask. Is what
Yes.
was like the first event you ever TO'd? Like, what point where you were going from, I guess, I don't want to say competitive player to only TOing, but because I know you still play competitively here and there whenever you get the opportunity. So
Mhm.
I guess more of like, what was like the beginner steps for you into becoming a TO for, I guess we'll say online first and then LAN.
It's funny you say that because I don't think I've ever actually TO'd an online tournament. Um,
Really?
yeah, I
Interesting.
never I never ever did. There was times where I helped with production like once or twice maybe with Dapple, and then even before that there was an older tournament series called
Hmm.
NNCL that like we were trying to revive at some point, but it never did, and I was also supposed to just be helping with production there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I never actually ran a tournament until I started running LANs. It was more of like a passion project slash idea. I wanted to kind of fill in a gap. I wanted to help events run a little bit better. I felt like
Hmm.
a lot of the folks from Endgame, which was the major group of people running events beforehand, were kind of hopping off. They were like, all right, we're done with this scene now, or at least done with TOing, and wanted to focus more on production, which is how we ended up with our current level one, I believe. Oh my gosh, my brain is having a total fart right now as what it is. I believe it is level one, but let me
I
just
think so,
double.
yeah. I'm pretty sure
Yes, it's
it's
level
level
one.
one, yeah.
Yes, but a lot of the folks who are more production oriented from Endgame went off and created level one, and whoever was TOing for Endgame just kind of dipped, pieced out, and I was like, all right, well, this is probably the time for somebody who cares about the scene to step up and make the changes that I actually want to see in the community be put to light a little bit.
Hmm.
And I remember I had been yapping about it in private, just like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the event that I kind of want to bring Splatoon back to, which was Shine. I was like, I thought it was so nice being in Boston for Squid Storm 2017. I would love
Yeah.
to bring that back. I would love to have us at Shine series. And K-Bot overheard that and he was like, okay, well, I've been hearing a few other people talk about wanting to run lands. So let me
Hmm.
just put all those people who I think are suitable for the job together and I'll train them up at Low Tide City, and then this can be the next generation of LAN TOs.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. We had like a huge group of us at Low Tide 2022, and K-Bot showing us the ropes. But in true Cyren fashion, sometime before the event, I was like, I'm not hearing much about what's going on
Hmm.
as far as us running this right now, and it turns out Kbot had been kind of swamped. So I was like, Kbot, whatever you're dealing with, just like pass a lot of this TO stuff to me and I'll just figure it out. I'll just figure it out as I go. And he
Yeah,
was like, you
yeah.
know what? I appreciate you. And that's more or less been my role for a lot of events. And kind of how I've continued things within Splat lands. Like,
Yeah.
even when I'm not involved with an event, I am quote unquote involved with an event in some capacity.
Yeah, to some degree,
Um,
you're there.
yeah, I'll be like nagging them and pinging them, being like, "Have you guys taken care of this yet? Because you should do that soon."
Yeah.
Um, and they'll be like, "Well, why don't you do it?" And I'll be like, "Sure." Like,
Yeah.
so that tends to happen quite a bit. Trying to stop myself a little bit more, but sometimes it is what's wanted and what's necessary. So,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
yeah. But overall, yeah, it was more of just K-bot assembling the Avengers for the future.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I love that like I guess maybe not so much now, but like I think it was like was it 2023 or the end of 2022 where we had like the very last like K-bot chair that had a special spot in like the LAN room.
Ooh, I'm trying to think of which one you're thinking of, because Low Tide 22
Hmm.
was K-bot's like sign off event, quote unquote. He was like, "This
Yeah.
is it. That's I'm done." But then the next year, I got sick one morning, and then like Magic was like, "I need your help," and he was TOing for a minute, and people were like taking pictures, being like, "LOL, K-bot TOing."
Yeah, so much for retiring.
Yeah, even though he was just like hoisted into that spot for for no one's fault, really.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's cool though that like K-bot had taken that initiative to train everyone. Now you took the initiative to kind of try to. I feel like that's something that a lot of people, especially in the nowadays, learn the best from is just kind of being tossed into it and trying to instead of finding the right way, find a way that works for them. And
Hmm.
if anything, comparing that to what is the technically the right way or like how it was usually done because like most times you end up finding a better solution or a quicker solution to whatever it is than what they previously had because that's just how it was by the books.
Hmm.
um so it's cool to see that like you were able to take that initiative forward and now you've been able to progress this far into making so many unique and amazing events and helping out. I know you did mention Splatlands. We'll talk about that just in a little bit because I do want to learn more about that. But um yeah, I mean it's awesome that you were just kind of like were you like the main person that kind of did that, or did you have anyone else kind of with you with like, yeah, just give me anything and like I'll figure it out, like help with it.
I'm trying to think because this was before we had Magic as well.
Hmm.
Um, I think a lot of people were also sharing the sentiment of like, we don't know what's going on with K-bot, we don't know what's happening with the event. Um, but I'm trying to give credit where credit is due. Like,
Hmm.
Rissa was also happy to take on like whatever she could do to help. She was very like, I'll do what I can, but just like let me know what that is.
Hmm.
Um, and same thing goes with like Rays and Kraken couldn't make it out to the event in person as well, but like if you've ever seen Compossible, you know that guy Wade, like that
Yes.
that
Yeah.
was that was his role, was like making sure everything was fine. He had the computer to check on everything from where he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh, I love
great, but it was
that.
also terrible. I remember I my flight got a delay going into my connection in Chicago O'Hara, and you've probably been to that airport, but it's
Yes. Yeah.
crazy, it's huge. Yeah. And it got so delayed that by the time I was deboarding, my next plane was taking off, and I remember Kraken like messaging me like it's too late, it's moving on the tarmac right now. And I was just like sobbing my eyes out, like just crying hysterically in the airport
Oh,
because I thought I was letting everyone down. Oh, it was like it's funny in retrospect, but oh my gosh, what a tragic time.
I was about to say at the time you had to think like the world was ending, the event's ruined,
Yeah.
you can't run anymore.
Yeah, no, I they got me on the first flight out the next morning. It was all fine. I was there for setup, like we're Gucci. But At the time, I was like, "Oh no, they're never gonna want to run Splatoon again because my flight is delayed."
Oh, that's how it always rides out. It's like just you can always count on an airport or like just any form of transportation just making things so much worse.
Yeah, and I think the same thing happened to Magic, like this most recent low tide city last year, where his flight got delayed, and I think me and Brush set up the entire thing without him, and then he just showed up, and we were like, "Hi there, Lan is here. What's up?"
Land's all good. You're welcome to the party.
Yep. I know he felt so bad about it, but like, there's nothing you can do, and that's
Exactly.
it's good that we have more than one TO running events for that reason, and also like it's very hectic.
Hmm. Yeah, I can imagine. I know like a lot of times, most people are just there to like watch like the event or watch like people compete or just find stations to play. Something I always love doing is like, I guess you can call it people watching in a say, but I love to just watch the TOs in action because it's just so like fascinating to me seeing like all the steps that maybe I don't understand yet or like I'm trying to understand,
Mhm.
but like seeing what they do and I'm just like wow, like this is like a lot. Like I remember, I'm trying to think what event it was. I don't think it was the last low tide city. It might have been a riptide. And I just
Mhm.
remember seeing someone just running like to like the TO desk, then running back to production, then running to TO desk, then running to the tables, then running to setup one, then or like stream setup
Yeah.
one, stream setup two. And I was just like, this is like crazy. And then like it's like obviously you're too far away to hear, the room's too loud to hear exactly what's happening, but you just make your best judgment of what they're trying to do. And then in no
Yep.
time, before next thing you know, it's like Team A and Team B get to the station.
Yep. Yeah. It's a lot of like doing laps as well and making sure that nobody is getting missed because it's right. Like you can't hear anything.
Hmm.
So if you just see a lobby sitting there and no games being selected or started, you're like, okay, something is wrong. Either we're just like twiddling our thumbs or there's like
Hmm.
a technical issue I need to deal with over there. So it's almost like this terrible, stressful game that you can't escape. Um,
Yeah, even if like and like you'll find out it's supposed to be like that, and it's just like this still doesn't feel right.
yeah, yeah. There's always got to be something wrong. Anytime you're feeling like things are peaceful and that everything is good, that
Hmm.
means there's probably something secretly wrong that you don't know about. Like it's just
Yeah.
getting behind you.
It's one of those cases where like if you work like retail at all and like things are just really quiet, it's like no, something's off. There's something's gonna happen, and then like 20 minutes later, you get like the giant crowd of people that were just all at the beach if you live like on a coast,
Oh yeah.
and you just get slammed for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, like quickly on that topic, I used to work in like a busy mall in the downtown area of the capital city of Canada, and
Hmm.
sometimes they would send in like school buses full of kids from like out in the country, just like rural areas of
Yeah.
Ontario, just so they could experience what it's like to be in a city. Like that is
Oh
an
my
actual field trip
gosh.
they have out there. So they would like send in like full buses of just kids, and they just like don't know how like a pin pad works or like any
Yeah.
anything. Um, and it just feels like you're talking to an alien. But yeah, no, that's
You're talking to like
very
a like
relatable.
you're like somebody from like the past from like the early 1800s. Like, what is this like computer like futuristic system I'm looking at here?
Yeah, they're like Amish children, but not
Yeah,
actually at all.
yeah. They just don't have those resources, or
Yeah.
they're just not needed.
Yeah, exactly that. So I guess you could say I was well prepared to become a TO. I worked retail
Yeah, you
for
were
long enough.
used to you were used to the just the hectic manners that come with it.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so you already kind of answered the next question I had, which was what was your first LAN? And you did say you've been to majors. Have you been to any locals yet?
The closest thing I have been to as far as a local was I went to one of the Toronto Squid socials that they
Okay.
host. Yeah, I went because one of them landed on my birthday,
Hmm.
like back in 2019 or 2018, I think. And that actually, it's an interesting story because I don't think I would have been able to get into commentary the way that I have now if I didn't go to that.
Really?
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, those were events that were run by, at the time, Paste Cat from Endgame. And it was my birthday, so I was staying at his place for the event,
Hmm.
and he would run like a stream of like their little salmon run event. And he's like, "Oh, well, I need somebody to hop on mic with Jeannie." And I was like, "Okay, well, I can try." And he's like, "Have you commentated before?" And I was like,
Hmm.
"No, but I've tried to, and no one lets me on the mic, you know?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, well, I'll give it a shot." And like he put me on commentary, and he was like, "Wow, that's like you're really good. Like, why hasn't anyone let you?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like I'd been applying, and no one would let me. And he's like, "Well, don't worry. Like, I'll put in a good word for you, and we'll get you on the next cast
Hmm.
possible." Which was how I got a spot for Genesis. It was Genesis in 2020. So went right into the land majors right
Wow.
right
Like just
after
an
that. Yeah,
immediate start.
yeah. So thanks for the connection there. Kind of boosted me quite a bit there.
I would say just goes to show like make the connections and you'll go far. Oh my gosh, that's
Mhm.
incredible.
And also celebrate your birthday in front of people so they feel
Yes.
obligated to give you
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
If not like a gift of some kind or a treat, at least a spot on commentary.
Yep. Now I get to commentate with Jeannie.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love that. It's so interesting to hearing how people like first got into things like that because it's like, um, the newer ways now, of course, it's just like messaging like the lower level tournaments and then just working your way up. Obviously Falco's Ludi tonight, which is a huge segue for a lot of people to get into commentary, myself included. And back then it was just kind of like, eh, like sure, here's a way if you really just try hard enough, if you bug enough
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I believe IPL has been a lot more accepting of newer commentators, but like, it was a little bit harder back then when we also had just less tournaments in the mix. And then
Hmm.
to be frank, to be totally blunt, like a overall stronger pool of talent when it comes to commentary. Like the people who I was inspired by back in the day, like wow, I think they could hop on now and still be just as good.
Yeah.
There's only a couple people who are still around from that era, like Zach and Nine,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
honestly, there were so many people that were like super strong, and I think it part of it was because a lot of that came from the Smash side, and so they had like this very professional way and know-how of like what to do on a mic and a deep understanding of the game. I feel like there wasn't as much variance in like the skill pool as well, so it was a lot easier to be agreeable on a lot of topics.
Hmm.
And that just made like the knowledge was out there for more people. So just the usual cast of commentators we had around then made it one so that like why would we bring in anyone else? Everyone is so strong already.
Yeah. Exactly.
And two, like I don't remember what my other point was, but like they were so good.
Yeah. No. They if in a sense they were the starter generation of commentary because I feel like majority of people that commentate now either have heard of them, at least like I know I did, but like
Mhm.
or you have the other side of the coin where you have a lot of people who just like they hear it or see it from the low ranks or the online majors, or maybe there's like a random tournament that one of their favorite like high level players are playing and then they just decide to watch. And they're like, oh, like it seems really cool to just talk about the game while it's happening, so I just want to try to join. um
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of people that really paved the way for commentary, and they had, like you said, like such a professional manner when it came to commentary, something that a lot of the newer commentators out there have to, in a sense, build up. But when you already kind of start off in that, like seeing how the Smash commentators do it right off the bat into Splatoon, it's just kind of like you're going in knowing already kind of how to be the best, where nowadays it's like you gotta really like put in that effort and build up to it, because there's not that immediate connection anymore. It's like now you're just working off of previous commentators from Splatoon.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely have to give credit where credit is due. Like they made the template and I am just like my brain is just regurgitating what they've placed there more or
Yeah.
less. Yeah, I definitely miss a lot of names like Melissa and Walkie. Melissa was like the first like female commentator who was like huge in the scene. I might be forgetting somebody else. I apologize if I do, if there's like some other big name that was commentating then, but
All right,
like
we're really testing your knowledge today.
yeah, yeah, but no, she was amazing.
Yeah, it's not every day that you have those kind of resources available and those people to look up to when it comes to it. You know, obviously, I think maybe like almost a year ago there was that kind of resurgence of that. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it. It was like that commentary like Discord server, that was open for people to join to kind of get tips and tricks, VOD review for things or for commentary, etc. Um, but I know like there's sometimes a lot of these like people that like pave the way for commentary, like they still go to events, so like it's not hard to go up and ask them like for any tips or anything. And that's actually something like I did. I think it was like my second or third ever major I went to, and I remember seeing Nine, and I just went right up to. I remember like asking to talk to a friend. I was like, "Oh, there's Nine. Oh, but I'm so scared to talk to him. Like, what do I say?" And then they're like, "Just do it." So I go up there. I'm just like, "Nine, I need to ask questions about commentary," and he was more than excited to talk about it, and that it just made it so much easier. Like one, knowing how welcoming he was as a person, also just about the topic, because it's something he enjoys, and that's something I feel like a lot of people should do, especially when it comes to maybe majors or events in general, but also just even online, like just shoot that DM, shoot a message, because I'm sure they're more than happy to give any kind of tips they possibly have.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I always love when people are talking about Nine and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's so scary. He's like this big guy and he's like the like but like knowing him, he is like probably just as scared of you. He's like he has like such a good game face and everything, but
Hmm.
like yeah, he is the biggest softie in the scene for real. So
My biggest thing was being like afraid that I was gonna just be bothering him if he was so like focused. I think he had his controller in his hands, and then his headset around his neck, and I'm like, oh, he's probably locked in. I don't want to take him out of that mode.
yeah, yeah, no. I think what makes him like the most excited too is if you like ask to work out with him during the LAN at some
Oh
point. Like I know the
yes.
Kalaharis have gyms. Like if you're like, "Hey, Nine, are you working out this weekend? Like, can I join you?" Like he'll probably be like, "Really?" Like
Yeah. Yes, or like whenever it's like they do like the sporting events, like I think they had the like ultimate frisbee or volleyball at another
yes.
LAN, and it's like now you gonna play? It's like someone finally asked me, like let's go.
Yeah.
Oh my
No,
gosh, so
he
good.
loves that. And him like not getting to commentate that many events isn't like a choice of his own. Like he just like it's all schedule stuff for him. He's not like somebody who like thinks he's like too good for events, like even like weeklies and stuff like that. It's just like, "Oh yeah, you just got to ask me like 5 months in advance."
Yeah.
it, it's not up to him, but
Yeah, it's
if
just
if
one of
it
those things
was,
that
he'd
like
be
if it
here all
was
the
he'd do
time.
it. Yeah, exactly. If it was he would be here whenever, but schedules are schedules. Life to compared to hobby, life's gonna come first.
Absolutely. I love how this went to like a tangent about nine whole grains
It
for
really
for a second,
Yeah,
but it is
that
true.
happens a lot here. We just not tangents about nine, just tangents in general.
They should all be tangents about nine. Just like have a minute every podcast to discuss nine.
Yeah,
What's
just find
going on with
some
him?
way to incorporate them into it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just get nine on one day, and it'll just be titled "Let's Talk About Nine."
I think you should do that.
Honestly, he'd probably be more than happy to.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to plan it. What you said, 5 months in advance, right? I'll plan for the winter.
Just ask him whenever he's next free. Yeah.
Okay, so the Splat lands, Discord server, the home for a lot of Splatoon majors. How did
Hmm.
this come about? What was the kind of like the want to create a space for majors and lands in general, and like how did you kind of decide that a decision between like what events to include and what not to include, and just kind of I guess the upbringing of it.
Oh, geez. Well, I guess this is not as interesting as you might think it is, to be honest. Like,
It's okay. Most of the time things like this aren't, but it's still cool to know.
yeah, so we had our little TO server for planning Low Tide City 2022 and any other future events. And so we were like, okay, well, we need a server where we can like communicate with the people going, because with Splatoon, it's not like people understand the norm of going to events. They don't
Hmm.
know what to bring with them. They don't know all this other stuff. Like it's never straightforward. So the idea there was like, oh, we can do this, and then we can like maybe share information about other events. But
Yeah.
then I think shortly after that, it kind of we had pondered and thought about the idea a little more, and we were like, I don't really like the idea of like sharing information about other events. I think the realization kind of came after Low Tide City 2022, when we were like, okay, people think we have a lot of responsibility here, so
Yeah.
they're gonna think that like if I post about Splatoon at MagFest, for example, if I post about that here, they're gonna think they can ask like help desk questions or all this
Hmm.
other stuff. So as much as like I like to share information about other events in very specific circumstances, I don't feel like it would be in best faith to start doing that when I also know that like I have a particular like standard for how things are run. And I just don't want to like have someone think that like Low Tide City 2024 is going to be on like the same level as like a local, both for like us and for them. I
Yeah.
don't want the standard to be like way in the ceiling for like a local event that can't like afford like audio equipment yet or anything like that, like or just vice versa. I don't want someone to think anything is what it's not.
Yeah, no, that makes
So
sense.
that, yeah, and I a lot of the times I don't know these TOs. I don't know if the event is legit. So um that's more or less where it's sitting. So
Hmm.
and honestly, we kind of copied the template from like every other Splatoon event server, like IPL, I think we even like looked at the IPL rule set and it was like, okay, we'll copy your homework, but don't make it look obvious.
Yeah.
Which it was fine because it was Kraken Mare's idea. So, uh,
It's approved.
yeah, we have to change the template a little bit after a while. But more or less, like, yeah, it's just like, okay, let's make a server, we'll split it up by event, and then we can have like some archival channels where people get to look back at all these photos, which I'm glad we have that because unfortunately I think some of the channels for some of the old endgame events have gone missing in action.
Hmm.
So there are some lands where there's like entire sets or entire photo albums that have become lost media now.
Dang.
Uh, and yeah, that makes me very sad as like an old person who likes to go back and look at that stuff every few months. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get that. I recently like went through like a lot of just like old land stuff I have because I keep everything in, like a bin, and like it's crazy thinking because like sometimes you don't even realize the stuff you get, or like even the
Mhm.
photos you take or the videos you have, and you go back and you're like, wow, I don't remember this, but this is so funny or this is so cool.
Yeah, and I hate to get sappy or moody on the pod, but like, after we unfortunately experienced the loss of Tommy as of recent, like it's one of those things where you want to go back and be like, wow, this was like a great memory we had
Hmm.
together. So, yeah.
Absolutely, it allows you to relive those moments, just even for a little bit, like and just remembering so much that happened at that time, and really takes you down the memory lane of that, and just kind of like I don't know. Sometimes also I always love looking at stuff like that because it kind of like relights the fire sometimes too,
Mhm.
in someone to like want to do something greater or something better or like push forward for the next big thing that they can do, just to I don't want to say recreate that moment, but recreate, I guess, make it for others so they can have that opportunity and they can be able to have their version of those photos and look back on and kind of like
Mhm.
just keep that cycle going.
Yeah, exactly. That's something I like, and I love the tournament VODs too because I
Hmm.
think my favorite thing more than the game itself is looking at pop-offs whenever
Yes.
bring back toxic pop-offs. I'm tired of this cordial Splatoon thing.
Am I allowed to hurt chairs again? Am I allowed to hurt the chairs again?
I'll allow it once or twice, you know. It gets a little redundant after
Yes.
like the third time in a set, but
It's
like,
okay.
you know.
After the first time I had what was that low, that was Low Tide City, wasn't it? When you and
That was
Magic.
Riptide
Oh, it was Riptide. That's right.
for
I
when
was
you when the chair was
yeah,
getting
just launching backward.
yeah.
It's okay. Since then, I don't think I've damaged any chairs, so we're fine. But maybe Momocon will allow one.
Oh gosh, be careful at that one. I think they're rolling chairs too they had on the
Oh, are they?
stage
Oh, never
last
mind then.
year.
Those are heavy. Those are shockingly heavy, by the way. It's crazy.
Yeah, they had like it was a really weird stage setup, I'm not gonna lie. They're gonna change it this year a little bit, but
Hmm.
you don't know till you get there.
Yeah, it
But
makes
it was like
sense.
rolling chairs on a stage with this big metal, like I don't know what it's called, a big metal pole that goes all the way across horizontally,
Oh
and that was
my.
holding up the monitors. And then I think like the switch docks and the TM, like the mix amps and stuff were on the
Yeah.
floor.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
were like held up by chairs or something like that, so the wires would be long enough.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember, like, when Soren won, he, like, popped off and he threw his controller somewhere, and I remember we were looking for it for, like, 15, 20 minutes. I think it was, like, underneath the stage or something. I don't know what happened. There's, like, a big curtain there too that, led to production behind there,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the commentary desk is just, like, right in front of the crowd, which they do on purpose. It's kind of interesting, but it
Okay.
always makes me a little nervous that someone's gonna show up and start putting obscenities on the mic. I think I accidentally, I don't mind saying this now, I'm not sponsored anymore, but, I think I BM'd Papa John's last year by accident.
No way.
I think, like, Soren came up to me and Rissa the second we were done a set, and he was like, "You want some pizza?" And I was I was like, "Is that Papa John's?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Heck no."
Oh my
And the mic
god.
was hot, like, you could hear it echo through the room.
Oh, there's no way.
Yeah.
Unfortunate timing.
Like, I didn't realize that it was hot until I said that because it was, like, extra loud, so
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Maybe it. Were you not no longer sponsored after that event? Because if so, I think we know why.
well, I was sponsored for, like, a total of, like, 10 minutes,
Oh, okay, just like an ad read.
yeah, low tide 22, but at least, like, honestly, it was, like, one of those things where you do it just so you can say that you did it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Absolutely.
I don't mind saying that now, but
Yeah, back then it was like, ah, whoopsie.
yeah, Papa John's was funding, like, the entire Smash community for, like, that year, but
Yes.
not anymore.
Them comboed with Red Bull.
Yes,
What a
oh, they had the
fantastic
Red Bull
duo.
fridge. People kept taking from the Red Bull fridge, and then we had to, like, put them in the front so that it would look full for, like,
Oh
the
yeah,
cameras.
yeah,
I was like, "Stop getting the Red Bulls from the fridge."
yeah. Did you just
We'll
start
let
just
you
making
know
those
when you
like
can take the Red Bulls.
displays?
Yeah, like, we ran out, I think, and then we had to restock, and gosh, I know the Red Bull looks very enticing players, but chill.
Yeah. We have to make this look good for the camera. Just hold off till like the break.
Yeah, yeah, hold off until, like, we know we have enough Red Bulls to pass out to the players going on stage. 'Cause it was, like, this whole thing, they wanted them to, like, walk up and grab a Red Bull and,
Oh
sit
yeah,
down, yeah.
yeah. That's fair. I get
This
that.
is my gamer fuel to start my set. No shade at all. Love
Yeah.
them for sponsoring, but, like, I guess it's a testament to your product when I cannot keep it stocked in the fridge that
Oh
is
yeah,
supposed to be there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't help but feel like, especially like if someone ever tried to take from it, like while like the camera's on the commentary, like it's just like, why are you taking it? It's like, cause it's just so good. I need it. It's like, there's the free ad. There's the not free advertising, but there's the good advertising we were like, waiting for.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay, so today we are here to discuss community safety after rambling for quite a while about a lot
Yep.
of a lot of just events in general, and of course how you got into the scene. Um, Kind of take me back to what the scene was like before and after there was that um I guess the upbringing and like the creation of more solid like safety guidelines put there for the community by the community, and also like things like spot safety, because obviously spot safety wasn't thing from the get-go. There, it got put in place for a reason. So just kind of give, I guess a before and after, what it was like then and what it's like now, and like the major differences that most players maybe like who recently joined the scene aren't realizing.
Oh gosh. So I think I mentioned this to you beforehand, but
Hmm.
I definitely wanted to put out some disclaimers there
Yes,
before
please do.
I
Yes.
proceed with talking about anything relating to Splat Safety. I am not a member of Splat Safety, nor have I ever been a member of Splat Safety. My opinions are my own. They do not reflect Splatlands in particular unless specified otherwise. And Splat Safety, I'm also not representing them either. I will go more into depth of like what my role was as a part of this as I answer the question, I guess. But for
Hmm.
now, just assume that like I am not Splat Safety.
Yeah, a lot of
Let me
this is
make
just
that
going to be
very
like
clear.
the outside perspective of like what you just happened to experience because you were, in a sense, you were there from like, I don't say the beginning, but like
Yeah.
the like pushing the scene to the next level, especially when you started really getting into like TOing for lands. You kind of see a lot of that stuff firsthand because you are, in a sense, like one of the main TOs.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So back in 2017 when I started, we did not really have like a baseline for safety.
Hmm.
The TOs that were in our scene were there to do exactly that. They were like, and that's fair, that's totally fair. They wanted to run tournaments. They did not really see a purpose for like dealing with deep personal issues on any kind of level. For the most part, they were like, okay, well, I'm here to seed this bracket and decide whether it's Swiss or double elimination.
Yeah.
I'm not here to talk about what's going on in your personal life,
Hmm.
which is kind of rough when you're transitioning in from an online to an in-person community, because there's a lot of things that you can dismiss and you can just go, well, okay, that's not really like, you can just block somebody if they're giving you issues online.
Hmm.
But once we get into the realm of real life, then this becomes a bit more of a concern, and uh, we're not really too sure of the implications of what safety means in our community.
Hmm.
Um, so that was the struggle then, and I brought up a case to you before we started as well that was very highly publicized, and it basically exploded, and it caused a lot of issues for the victim, just because like, okay, suddenly everybody knows everything going on with you personally. It's embarrassing, it's humiliating, seeing all this happen to you. And it was definitely like way more explosive than it should have been
Hmm.
to protect, I guess, the sanctity of them, and um truly like protect who needs the protection the most, right?
Yeah.
um so and I won't even blame the TOs there, because at the time as well, like the people who were concerned for that person's safety didn't really know what to do about it either, other than
Hmm.
spread like mass awareness, and they didn't really realize like the implications of it.
Yeah.
Um
It was, in a sense, like kind of like there's always a first for everything. So this was kind of like
mhm,
a real first, like, you know, online situation turned in person. That's like, okay, this is like a learning experience for everyone because this has never happened
mhm.
before. So everyone's gonna, try to take it the best they can, but it's in general a new experience, and like everyone's just trying to figure it out.
Exactly that. Like it's hard for me to like point the finger and say, okay, well things were terrible back then. Well, people also didn't really fully know what they were doing and how we could best handle these situations. So while it caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, I think it was a pretty big stepping stone. People from back then will probably know what I'm talking about. It's very old. It's like 2017, 2018 that I'm talking about here.
Mhm.
Um, so I will go on and speak personally and say that following that, there was somebody else in the community who I had discovered was definitely a problem. I had met with the victim of said person, and we had collected a lot of information and very like damning screenshots. Like, I'm not going to say who this was or what this
Mhm.
was or what
Yeah.
was happening, but it was very alarming. And he wasn't really doing anything to hide it or show any kind of guilt. Like, he felt like there was nothing wrong with what he was doing.
Mhm.
Um, so it came to a point eventually where we brought this to who we thought we were going to be the safe people. We brought this to a couple of TOs at the time, and the reactions um were less than pleasant. I'll put it that way. They were
Yeah.
like very like, "Oh, well, that victim is flirty," or like um oh, like if we tell him to stop, he'll just stop, and like this is not on the level of like
Of care that it should have been at.
yeah, pretty much. And it got so worrisome that they weren't going to do anything about it. That eventually I think we had to say, like, hey, we're going to put this out publicly. We really don't want to do that, but we will if nothing is done.
Mhm.
Um, just because like this is kind of crazy. Like
Yeah,
this should not
absolutely.
be a problem. And eventually another TO from that team got her hands on it and was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 this is crazy." Like, basically told the others to back off of the case and like handled it from there. Um, so that's more or less this is all relevant for the inception of splat safety. I will say, it took a while of back and forth and deciding what was the correct course of action before anything was done and just collecting information. And there was like a very large concern, I believe, from that TO team that like if they were not 100% correct in their decision, that they could face legal repercussions and that he would try to sue or like all this other stuff would happen. Which like, in retrospect, after studying like business law, I'm like, that's just not a thing. Like you can tell anyone not to come to your private event if you don't want them there, if it's private,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly. Yeah, like you're being able to hold those events to through I don't say contract, but like you're attached to the main the in a sense you're a side event to the main event that the venue's holding. So like you're able to allow and decline whoever you'd like.
yeah, exactly that. So there was a lot of back and forth at the time, but eventually that particular person faced a permanent ban. And as these cases kept coming up, as the scene was getting a little bit bigger, that same TO who had kind of taken the reins there was like, we need a better solution for this. We need like some sort of consistency. We need to make some sort of code of conduct. And with that group being largely from the Smash end of things
Hmm.
and transitioning over, um, you can kind of um you know find a template somewhere which was for them the Smash code of conduct,
Yeah.
which you may or may not be familiar with as well. But they decided to start working on drafts for what is now the Splat Safety Code of Conduct,
Hmm.
deciding, okay, what particular actions lead to what kind of punishment, um, based on what circumstances these things were in. It's a very long document, um, and I did end up proofreading a lot of early drafts of this.
Hmm.
Um, so that is my role in that.
Yeah.
Um, Nowadays, with splat safety cases and just, community concerns for safety in general, it's gotten a little bit muddy over time just because there's so much to deal with now, and there's a lot of things that are changing. And unfortunately, like, the org has taken a lot of hits, as you probably know, with the doxing and pretty much like harassment no matter what they do.
Yeah.
If somebody is banned, then they'll get harassed for it not being appropriate. If somebody is banned but not long enough, they'll get harassed.
Yeah, pretty
If
much
they don't
anything
ban
they
anyone,
do.
if any decision will
Yeah, it's a
lead to
problem.
the
Yeah.
org getting some sort of terrible negative response in some form. Um, so
It's just one of those things
that,
like you can never
yeah.
make it, you can't make everyone happy, and you're most likely gonna make just this is why like it's so frustrating to see like those posts on Twitter, and that's the main area where it's usually a problem. If not always a problem, is because one person just has to have some issue with it, and then some like not even reasonable, crash out response to it that makes sense. It's just because they're just angry about it, and then you have everyone just wanting to jump ship with it. That it's just
Mhm.
it always turns out worse than it needs to be.
Yeah, it's very much like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for
Yeah.
that org. And it's unfortunate that we have like this group of volunteers taking the brunt for like a lot of community decisions, and basically they take a lot of time out of their own lives. It's not like we're sitting around paying them for the work that they do.
Yeah.
Um,
It's all
like,
volunteer.
it's all volunteer people. It's all folks who felt like they had the mental capacity to help deal with these sensitive cases, and none of them are professionals. And well, at least as far as I know, none of them are professionals, and we're not paying them to do this.
Yeah, no,
But
exactly.
there is a certain level of trust that we as TOs put into them to really look deep into a situation and make the response that is generally appropriate, and they're not going to get it right every single time.
Hmm.
And it's so hard to get it right when you're not there in reality to look at every single fact. You can only go off of what you've been given.
Hmm. Yeah, I was about to say that's like I know a lot of I believe I remember looking into splat safety when I really first heard it about it, especially like when I was really getting into the scene and just kind of like I don't even remember how I came across them, but um, just trying to understand like I think it was one of the first times where like I saw a post of like someone saying something about them, and I was like, well, let me see what how they function, right? And it literally says
Mhm.
like it's all based off of their backgrounds and the experience that they have, and it's all usually different experiences, different situations they've either lived through or experienced, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't take account for when it comes to these splat safety members. It's not just your average Joe who's just like, yeah, I had a normal life, but anyway, here I am. It's like these people who like have maybe had the experience of like something bad happening to them or have been witness to it, and they're here for a reason, and that reason is because they believe everyone should have an opportunity to be safe doing something they love or something they care about. So they're bringing that unique experience to the table and being able to collaborate with people from different perspectives and different areas of life that are able to come to some kind of decision based on the guidelines that were provided.
I love that you bring that up because that sheds some light on, I guess, the authenticity of the decisions being made. Nobody is sitting there doing it because they're power hungry and they want to
Yeah,
just like mess
exactly.
around with things. It's because they are genuinely also looking to improve the scene as much as people have like that standard as well. We all want to see people thriving. We all want people to feel safe at events. But like, the way that they're treated is not really lining up with things. It's
Yeah.
hard to put it into words,
I
but
think
basically, like,
yeah,
people treat them like they have ill intent all the time, and that's
exactly.
just simply not the case. And they're not gonna get everything right 100% of the time, but
Hmm.
there are also certain restraints, and there will be exceptions to it because as TOs, we are the non-faceless people of this whole thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
people can say that splat safety is faceless and that, like, well, I'd like to know who's making these decisions. Well, if you want to throw that criticism, that's fine, but you can also throw it my way because I'm sitting here and I'm going, yeah, if they make a ban, I'm going to agree with it. I will follow
Mhm.
it because I understand the code of conduct that the community like or that I signed on to by being a signatory, more or
Yeah.
less. It's not like something the community signed on to, but as a TO, I understand what I do and do not want at my
Yeah.
events in general, right? And I think largely that code of conduct accomplishes that. And there are times where I think it's not going to be strong enough or it's, you know, too light or they're missing a specific case that has been brought to my attention.
Mhm.
I, as well as literally every other TO, have the power to make decisions on my own as well and
Yeah.
make my own bans and decide who's allowed at my events. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something that a lot of these, you know, I'm gonna just say it, these immature kids that are going to make these posts of like, oh, you should ban this person for a year. Oh, you should ban this person for longer than like 6 months. It's like, well, first you need to understand, you like you mentioned it earlier, the whole code of conduct that was created for Splatoon came off of, yeah, the guidelines of the Smash Code of Conduct. So if you want to be
Yeah.
mad at anyone, be mad at, the people that helped guide us to where we're at today, and that's the the early onset Smash Bros staffing, players, just community overall. And look at how theirs is lined up. And if you really want to try to compare contrast, I believe the Splat Safety Code of Conduct is available for anyone to read, correct?
Yes, it is available for anyone to read. Last I checked.
Okay.
I will say I don't fully agree with like putting any sort of blame on the Smash community because ultimately we adopted a lot of what they had and
No, yeah,
we can
absolutely.
still change things based on the needs of the community and the needs
Yeah.
of specific cases because some things aren't as black and white as what's written down there.
Hmm.
And I think that's where like probably the biggest margin of error for splat safety is, as well as like another thing that I'm going to bring up a bit later. But like that the other criticism I have is something that is actively being worked on. So I'll touch on that at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, what I'm like, poor choice of wording from I've been making a lot lately. First with tournaments, now this. Um, but it's more a sense of like just where they should be getting the understanding from, right? Because I feel like a lot of these people, a lot of these kids are looking at, the SWAT Safety Code of Conduct, or honestly not even that, just looking at the ban and not understanding what it's coming from or how it was laid out. All they see is a bunch of, section and numbers, and they're like, well, I'm not going to read all that, but I'm just going to tell you you're wrong. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating that no
Mhm.
one's that's just kind of like the world we're in, where just no one dares to put in that little bit of extra effort to understand why and how they came to that conclusion. Even though, for the most part, most of Splat Safety's posts are pretty informative on, why and how. You know what I mean? They give you the description, they tell you exactly what went on, at least with the information they were given, which again, something that then people should be keeping in mind is that whatever the decisions that are made are based on the information that they are given. But not, there may
Yes.
be things that maybe aren't given to them that maybe people just don't feel comfortable revealing, or don't want to put out there just in case if anything happens. God forbid someone's account gets hacked and it's like they scroll through DMs and find that. It's just there's
Hmm.
so many variables that can really affect it, that
Yeah.
yeah, there's no real 100%ing anything, because somewhere along the line something's gonna be missed, forgotten, purposely withheld, and that's just how it is. You know what I mean? There's no reason to be all disgusting about it like most people are.
Yeah. And I that's another important point as well. I think I hate putting it into these kinds of words exactly, but I think a lot of players and other members of the community expect both TOs and splat safety personnel to quite literally act as the Illuminati and just know when there's a problem without being
Yeah.
informed. And I don't, as well as like other TOs for the like as far as I know, we don't have the mental capacity to be scrolling through every social media feed
Yeah.
and looking for your drama and deciding if that's something you want something done about. Um that is like you definitely like there's definitely going to be a difference between you bringing publicity to an issue, which is totally fine. If you're going through something and you want to share that with the community, by all means go ahead. But if you expect some kind of action from the TOs or splat safety, you definitely 100% should bring that to us. Just bring it to our attention. Discuss how it makes you feel. Like ultimately we're trying to do our best for you, so help us help you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Be able to talk about those situations if you're comfortable enough to, but don't leave it as black and white as just this person's bad. Here's just one reason. Instead, like,
Mhm.
be comfortable with being able to elaborate if need be, and if you're not, that's fine too. But there's processes in place for a reason to handle a lot of these situations, and that's something a lot of people don't realize either, is that I know there's like a lot of times like people will get banned or Splat Safety would make posts and it's like, oh well, this happened a year ago, this happened 6 months ago. It's like,
Mhm.
like we meant, like you've been mentioning, and like I've been saying the past 20-30 minutes, is that like you know everyone's volunteer that does this. This is no one's full-time job, so they'll get to it when they're available, right? Obviously, life comes in the way. They have to research their information. They have to make sure everyone that's available to is going over all the information given, piece by piece, not making sure to miss anything that maybe the next person did. And then there's always the discussion phase, right? Like
Yeah.
what do these fall under? What is the expectation that we have, and like what are they doing to what degree that makes it feel like that will determine their quote. Yeah, I don't want to say sentencing, but the result of everything. There's so many
Yeah.
factors that are falling into it that it might be 6 to 8 months before you have an actual answer, because there's so many steps in place to make sure you don't get it wrong the first time.
Yeah, and there's also like a level of priority to certain cases. I've asked in the past that, like, okay, if there's any open cases for someone who might be attending a LAN event in person, like bring them to me as early as possible so I know if there's not going to be a resolution in time for the event, that I have the ability to make steps of my own to protect the peace at my events.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I sit on the issue, is like, yes, it's gonna take a while. You're right, it's all volunteer work. They also have like a huge backlog of things, and not everything that they do is public. So you might hear about something once every 3 or 4 months, but in the background there is several other cases going on. Some things that result in a ban, some things that don't, and some
Mm-hmm.
bans happen entirely behind closed doors for just the TOs to know about and deal with, and don't get really brought to the public unless somebody from within the case uh, goes out there and says it. But like for the most part, yeah, we don't really. Um, not everything is public, and not everything has to be public. The general public at times feels like they are responsible for being like the jury and determining or
Yeah, like they
making
get the
themselves
final
involved.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's never that simple. It's never like I have all the facts by seeing someone's Twitter post.
Yeah, exactly. Or I read this
Yeah.
thread. I only read half of it, but just know that I made my decision in the first
Yeah,
three replies.
exactly. Yeah. No, it's never that simple. So, uh, as much as you'd like to think that you would be the right person and you would be doing the right bans and getting the right punishment and doing this 100% of the time, uh, it's not like there's a bunch of incompetent people at Splat Safety who just don't understand right from wrong, trying to put two and two together, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's always deeper than it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some key things that you'd like people to know when it comes to land safety? Maybe things that maybe are should be obvious, but things that some people maybe don't have the right understanding of, or maybe there's people that are new to going to lands. I know because a lot of locals are popping up and majors are being a little more frequently, at least like once every quarter of the year, and there's a lot of new people that are attending and maybe don't have the knowledge or the resources to understand what they should be looking out for or understanding. What are some things that you know are kind of on the forefront that everyone should know when going to LAN events?
I think the earlier you have a concern about somebody going, just talk to whoever's running the event, or if it's anything Splatlands, you can talk to me because largely I'm the one sorting through the splat well, the safety related
Yeah.
cases um for Splatlands. So usually we kind of assess the situation, we'll talk about it with you. Um and most of the time it's circumstances where I can just keep these people separated, or I can just ask them nicely not to talk to each other or interact with each other during the event. And that's typically enough to not start any fires, because when you put it in someone's face like, "Hey, they don't want you to talk to them," and most of the time they don't want to talk to them either. They're just like worried about seeing that person. Then we
Hmm.
can kind of determine that middle ground and go, great, neither of you want to talk to each other, and if you do, I'm going to punish whoever does it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they both agree that, okay, we both want to stay at the event, so maybe we should do the right thing and not start stuff. And that's like in the nice, like, easy to handle cases.
Yeah.
Obviously when it goes deeper than that, like, again, let me reiterate, my concern, my number one concern, as well as literally every other TO for Splatlands and pretty much any local, I'd imagine,
Hmm.
has your safety at like the number one priority. So if you're like concerned for any reason, the best thing you can do is bring it up to a TO there. Splat safety, like, they're great, but like I said, they're not perfect. They're gonna miss some things. So when it comes to your sanity in real life, and deciding whether or not you want to go to an event because you're not sure if you're going to see someone you feel threatened by, always just bring that up with somebody. We can't help you unless we know, and I promise you that like pretty much every TO in the scene is going to be empathetic to the issue in some degree. um so it really is the best thing that you can do. um yeah, I'm not sure where else to put it. Like I said before, we're not the
Hmm.
Illuminati,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna know when there's an issue unless that's brought up in some degree.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's probably honestly the best and most important thing that kind of just like will track into um other knowledgeable factors to understand when going to lands in general. But it's see something or know something, please say something. This, like you said,
Yeah.
the sooner the better. The quicker that TOs and staff will be able to discuss and take care of it, depending on the scenario. But they're there to make sure you're safe and they're safe and everyone else is safe, no matter what the cause might be, right? And it. Is there any like level of trying to think how to word it, um I guess concern that, like, hey, if you like if this it's like there's this, like, maybe don't bring it up depending on the situation, or it's like no matter like the what you may notice, like, please bring everything up. So I feel like there's some people
Uh,
out there that might have like something they know, and they might be like, oh, this might not be worth their time, or like, I think it's stupid. Like, is there anything that's kind of like, if it's to this
mhm.
degree, don't bring it up? Or is it kind of a case of like, no matter what it is, like, please just bring it up, even if you think it's like not that important?
I think some people do underestimate like the importance of the situation that they're in.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, there is some beef in the community where it's literally just two kids calling each other stinky poo poo heads, and it's nothing deeper than that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't want them
so
to
it
be
is
there because
really
I don't like who they look like or something stupid. They
yeah,
smell
yeah.
funny.
Yeah, no, I think no matter what though, if there's ever like this part of you that's like concerned of what's going to happen if you see this person in person, just bring it up and I'll make sure that like even if it's not really that warranted, that you still are going into the event feeling like it won't be a problem, because that is like there's so many people who have like anxiety going into these events, even like unrelated to safety. Like there's some people who are like, "Oh, well, I don't know if I want to go anymore. Like my best friend canceled, but like I still have my hotel and my travel. Like
Mm-hmm.
should I even go?" And like I always encourage those people to put themselves out there and attend anyways because they're so much fun and it's literally the easiest place to make friends, like by far. I thought I was an introvert before getting into the scene, but like
Yeah.
once you enter a room where literally everybody in there shares a common interest with you, it is the easiest thing. Like just go and throw yourself out there and have fun. But
Yeah.
the second that you're like, oh no, well, what if this happens? That's like flooding your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just bring it up with one of us. It's not a stupid thing to be scared. It's not a stupid thing to be anxious, and you
Yeah.
shouldn't beat yourself up over it ever. So even if I'm just there to like encourage you to have a good time, I'm okay to have that conversation too.
Yeah. As someone who's like been very introverted in the past, I know there's some people that might be watching that know me a little bit more now, and they're like, "There's no shot the way you are and the way you act." But like before I ever started going to lands, like you would never catch me dead like anywhere but my home.
Mhm.
But the opportunity that like just like oh it's like I still remember that like the conversation I had with someone. I was like, oh man, Splatoon event in person, that seems kind of cool. I don't remember how I heard about it, but I just remember having like that conversation, like, you know, I would maybe it might be cool to just go and just experience it. And I think it was Riptide 2022, which was my first ever
Classic.
LAN I went to, and I had so much fun. The social anxiety was there. I was terrified to like talk to anybody, but my way of overcoming that was I brought a shirt that I threw a stupid like custom logo I had for like these really old Twitch emotes I had at the time, and I literally just went around and made everyone sign it. And I still have it somewhere. It's in a box, but like it was an opportunity to just like talk to people and like maybe ask a question or two if I felt comfortable enough. But it's crazy to think that like when you're in a space like you said where everyone who's there for the same thing, the same kind of hobby, the same topic, it is like significantly easier to make conversation or say something like on like not under your breath but kind of like in the open, and someone just to
Mhm.
kind of catch it and like toss feedback back to you, and then you end up talking to them like the entire set you're watching, or for like 30 minutes just casually by the entrance of like the room because you both saw someone like wearing like Splatoon cosplay. Like
Yeah, no, like you walk up to a set and somebody else is watching it with you. You go, okay, who are you rooting for? Why are you rooting for them? Like, okay, this team has a dynamo and that's the weapon I main, so I like seeing dynamos do
yeah.
good. Like it's that is like the baseline of what you can do, but like the LAN experience is what so much of us like live for.
Yeah.
So like holding yourself back from that because you're like worried about something is just like it's gnarly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I know the biggest fear a lot of people, and so especially this is one that I had like, um, is always this was before I like understood traveling more. But it's like when you do your research, you get more comfortable with it. But it's like, oh, like what if on my way there my flight gets delayed, or while I'm like on my way back, like something happens to my flight, or like I miss like a bus or something. It's like there's so many like fixes to those problems. Or even if it's cases of like, I don't know, like food availability or just in general, like what if I don't talk to anybody? It's like there's plenty of people that I will see when I go to these events that honestly don't even really talk to anyone, but they just get so excited watching from like the crowds and just kind of enjoying themselves. And it's one of those things like I just love to see because it's like they're in a space where they just like aren't socially comfortable, but they're still able to kind of like bypass that because they're so enthralled by like watching like the main stage or the gameplay happening that they're just having a blast. And that's like
Mhm.
something I feel a lot of people should really take part in, is like, look, even if you don't talk to anybody, you still get to like experience Splatoon and a large crowd in person and everyone cheering. Like if you've never experienced a grand finals of any LAN before in person, like it is a whole another level. Like videos will never do it justice. It is just surreal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like nothing else. Um, so there is a reason why I got so addicted to it and
Hmm.
wanted to keep things going. Um, and I do really hate this like misconception that like TOs only like are doing this for their own personal greed and that like they'll, that we're like somehow corrupt. Like
Oh
half
yeah.
of us, we're not like making bank off of
Yeah,
this.
you're
I
not
have to work
leaving
a
in a
full-time
Bugatti,
job.
like.
Like I do like 2 events a year. You think that's gonna pay off anything or like make me want to do things? Like I'm not like also I have a pretty regular moral compass for myself. If
Hmm.
like I've dumped multiple friends when I found out that like they were doing something bad. So like
Yeah.
there's no exception to that. Like if somebody even brought it forward that like my bestie was like doing something terrible, I would also drop them. So like I don't know, it's just like it's like a silly thing to like make up and perpetuate. Um yeah, there's just so many like rumors that people like to cling to and believe in like regarding community and safety measures that like it's getting a little bit out of hand as a recent.
Hmm. Yeah, everyone's just it's one of those things where it's like once they hear it, they'll immediately choose to believe it rather than being like, "Oh, is this actually true?" It's like I don't, it's just one of those like the swipe effects, you know what I mean? They see something, they see what it says, or they watch the video, and it's like, "Oh, it's got to be true." Anyway, next thing, and then they'll hear it again, and like someone else discuss it, and like saying the opposite. It's like, "Well, that's not what I heard or read at first." It's like, please, guys, come
Yeah, no.
on.
Let's use a little bit of common sense and back up on that. So, mhm.
So this might tie in with the last question. I think I think feel like we kind of discussed it, but is there any other like mistakes you notice a lot of people make when it comes to maybe safety in general? With it doesn't even have to be like just land, but maybe even online safety.
I think yeah, I think it ties in directly to like what we were most recently saying. I think a lot of people tend to run away with misinformation and just go with it, and that can cause bigger issues. Like they think that they're being helpful in some way, but a lot of the times they're not. Back in 2022, we had a pretty serious ban from Low Tide City. I don't know if you remember. I'm not gonna name the name, but
Hmm.
like if you were there, you probably know and remember.
Yeah.
Um, and that one was like it was crazy, and people were also like making up rumors that so and so was going to go anyways, and people tend to do that a lot now. Like someone like an unreliable narrator will make up some sort of rumor that someone is going to an event that people don't want there or feel afraid of, and even though there's nothing to back up the belief that they're going, um people will just go like and post on Twitter like share for awareness, this person's going to
Oh
the
yeah.
event, everyone gets
Yes.
scared, and then I have to be like, guys, they're not going. Like
Yeah. Like let's be
like
so
can you take
honest.
that down? Like you're scaring the children. Like calm down.
Yeah.
And that's happened a few times. Every time there's like a big public name out there that's like getting banned and like there's a lot of controversy surrounding, someone will always make up a rumor that they're going to an event. And only one time I think that's ever been true. But it wasn't someone who was like violent or anything, and yeah, that maybe that's a story for after the podcast, but like
Yeah.
I think talking about it would give them too much entertainment, but
Yeah.
um yeah, they would be happy. It's that kind of thing where like some people like get excited by the idea of people being afraid of them going
Yes.
even though
Yeah.
they're not like violent or anything like that.
Mm.
They like I hate calling people villains, but like sometimes when people act poorly, um they just like double down on it.
Yep.
Like they
It's just
they
it's the
they want
attention
people.
is what it is.
Yeah,
They
it's
love
it's
that kind of
fully that.
attention, negative or positive. It's you're saying their name in your mouth and that's what draws them to be so excited and like, "Ah, yes, you're talking about me. My plan is working." It's like, "No, you did a bad thing. You're not cool. Go away."
Yeah, it's literally that. But uh, trust and believe that like anytime something has been brought to our attention, we deal with it as fast as we can. At least on the Splatlands end of things. And thankfully, at least to my knowledge, no one has been hurt or um assaulted at one of my events. So if you have been, can you please tell us so that we
Hmm.
can do something about it? Like it I don't want to like make it sound like there's some like crazy norm so that people don't feel like they have to like live up to anything, but like it's not that hard to just act in good faith about these kinds of things, and then
Yeah.
when you're scared, to bring it up with the TO first before you freak out everyone with what you thought was true when
Hmm.
it's not. um because I have talked to a few of these people who have put out these posts claiming these things, and then they go, "Oh, it's not true," and then they take them down. Like,
Yeah.
okay, great, but now like 50 people saw that and
Exactly.
are now
Yeah.
worried,
It's
right?
like
Yeah.
lighting a match and the fire spreads, but you put out the match. It's like, no, I stopped it. It's like, no, it's still going. Like there's more
Yeah.
work to be done.
Yeah. It just creates like a very harmful echo chamber. So
Yeah.
I think TOs have a lot of responsibility to bear, but like there's also like a good amount that is on the players to also act honestly and participate in keeping the community safe as well, um, in ways that is productive rather than
Hmm.
just, you know, quote unquote raising awareness to something that you actually don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's always the there's always two sides to it, right? There's the acknowledgement and then there's the solution, right? Like, hey, here's the like acknowledgement of what happened, here's the awareness of it, so you're all aware, and now here's the actions that are going in place to, I mean, not only like, prevent further issues, but also, what the future is gonna hold for people that like maybe do something similar, or like what you are able to do if you're in that situation yourself, or you come across um that type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. And maybe perhaps we can segue onto the topic of like what's been more or less changing with splat safety in modern days,
Yes,
because we're
absolutely.
on the topic of misinformation, right? There's some people who think that splat safety is just non-existent and that
Mm-hmm.
they're not doing anything and they can't do anything. Well, they have the same amount of power as they have before. It's not like all these TO orgs are dropping out and saying, nah, forget about this. Like, that's never been the case because it's always just been a collaboration of individuals and TOs alike to get these bans done. It's not like this faceless Splatoon police that the assumption is there for, right? Um, these are people that we've put a lot of trust into because we understand that they have good intentions. Um, so what has been changing is they have been trying to split up the workload based on the nature of the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're currently in the process of changing the procedure so that like the smaller bands, things like, okay, I ulted into low ink, but actually I'm from DivX, or like someone called me stinky online, like
Yeah, just like
though,
the ones that are I don't want to say least important, but the ones that aren't like a serious offense.
yeah, exactly. So things that like I'm not worried about in person.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like you're not gonna alt into low ink IRL. Like
Yeah.
I can see who you are, you know.
Yeah.
It's also open skill level for lands, right? So
Yeah. To my knowledge.
yeah. So those are kind of being passed off either to TOs, or they're gonna have like a team that can just expedite through that sort of thing. while splat safety takes on more of the serious cases that they were originally created to deal with in the first place.
Hmm.
And honestly, I think that's going to be the most positive change that we see out of it. A big criticism, as we mentioned before, is the speed of those cases. So being able to take a lot of this fluff off of their plate, I think, is going to help. And a lot of talks have been happening between TOs and um, members of Splat Safety, like representatives that we publicly know of, just to communicate that message back and forth. Um, and understand what the needs are for Splat Safety to continue operating in a way that works for everybody, and for TOs to get what they initially needed out of Splat Safety, which is like, okay, we can't have everybody investigating every single difficult case and dealing with it and then getting maybe mixed results because, all right, IPL might decide on 1 year and then Dapple might decide on 9 months, like it, or some orgs might not even hear the news at all, and then, okay, well, we have little Timmy 54321 banned from every tournament except for the ones like in this org, so now that's all he's going to play, right?
Yeah.
uh so like that's what you need to like remind yourself of, why these codes of conduct were created in the first place. It was so that we could be consistent and we could let the right people take charge of the decisions, rather than somebody who is going to go, well, I'm a TO, I don't deal with this, I just want to make a bracket, I'm, or like, I don't really understand the serious implications of what you're bringing towards me. And like, you
Yeah.
can't expect everybody to understand that. Like, not everyone wants to deal with those deep and dark topics when they're trying to play their funny Squid Game. Like, and
Hmm.
that's fine. But having people who are there for that purpose is such a huge burden lifted off the backs of TOs that it's like we just do not show enough recognition for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't think really anyone has done whenever there's a decision made by Splat Safety, is any sort of recognition, right? That is always
Mhm.
met with some kind of criticization, whether it's, actually, I don't even know that's a word. I might have just made up a word there. But
Criticism.
yeah, just yeah, any sort of criticism, thank you. Is that, it's like something's always gonna be wrong with the decision they make, but there's not enough
Mhm.
people just saying, thank you for taking your time and effort into, getting a decision solved for this problem that was brought to you whenever it might have been brought to you.
Yeah, trying to do the right thing, and
Yeah.
also like, I think splat safety isn't above criticism either. I think a lot of what people are saying is true. But the way that people have gone about it is totally wrong. It's very inflammatory, and it doesn't properly communicate the what you want to see out of the org. It's always like, I don't like that it's this. What would you like it to be instead? But
Hmm.
there's always going to be, how do I put this? There's a reason why things evolve to where they are now. And I think a lot of people who weren't here for that evolution have kind of maybe lost the plot a little bit. And the doxing that happened earlier was kind of a shocking reminder of why we protect the identities of people involved, because when things go south and people don't agree with their bans or anything like that, some people lash out in really really terrifying ways.
Yeah.
um so that's always been a concern, and I've always had that, even since like before splat safety started, was like, if something goes wrong when I am dealing with this, am I going to like get flushed out for trying to do the right thing? Am I gonna like face harassment for it? And that's why so many victims have to be protected. And why a lot of these things happen behind closed doors is just like, unfortunately, people are assholes and they'll act
Yeah.
like it when maybe their friend got banned, or maybe something like this, and they just don't agree. It's never been that black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's different levels, there's different layers to the scenario, and I'm sure that Splat Safety's probably gotten tons of like, or even like you probably have yourself or many TOs that maybe have banned certain players from their event, or just try to poke, or get questions from these individuals like who are friends of the people that got banned, like, oh, like why did they get banned, or like why, who do you know who banned them? It's just like, we see what you're doing, like you're not gonna get an answer out of me, because people just they like to take it too far, you know what I mean? Or they feel
Mhm.
like they're doing something productive or something good by trying to find out, like, there's if your person, someone was reported and something came out about them, I think it's a time to think twice about that friendship or like that association you have, because if there was enough evidence per se, and like you're just being kind of left in the dark, and all you have to do is just be
Yep.
like, trust me, bro, it's like, you know there may be a problem there.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where people will withhold that kind of information from the people closest to them, and it'll lead to like people thinking, well, my friend could never do that, but
Yeah.
unfortunately it can, and I'm telling you this from experience. It absolutely can happen. Someone you think can do no wrong, uh, absolutely can do wrong and will do wrong, and then admit to doing wrong, but just not to you.
Hmm.
Um, and it creates these complicated situations, and ultimately I would love for people to be more open and think about things a little bit more, before exploding on on tournament organizers, because again, like, I'm one of the lucky ones to get any kind of compensation for what I do, but like 99% of TOs in the scene are fully doing this voluntarily. They don't really deserve to get harassed because your friend got barred from playing Splatoon in their tournament for a week or two. Like, that's just not cool. So,
Yeah.
um open minds will be good for everyone. And yeah, geez. Ultimately, what I would love to get out of, like, I guess this podcast as well, is
Hmm.
like learning about what kind of things the community would like to see out of Splat Safety, outside of like what you think they're doing wrong. I want you to hear what they can do to make things right, rather than just what's what you don't like about them. I want you to hear what you would change specifically.
Yeah, be a little open to it. Does Spot Safety have like feedback forms?
That is one thing I have been looking to, like, get started for them. Like, I've been trying to attend one of the meetings soon, because that is something also they do behind closed doors, is they discuss the changes um with their signatories every so often, and like get feedback from the TOs on what they want done.
Hmm.
I'm gonna actually check right now. Let's see. They do have their fun little Splat Safety account. Community contact. I don't see anything recent, at least. So I think that would probably be helpful if they opened up some sort of feedback form, because they do have forms to report like a case. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. So,
so,
my
some extra communication back and forth would probably be greatly appreciated by the community.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, I love the idea of like the community, like you said, being open minded and being able to have suggestions or ideas on how, like, what would they like to see Splat Safety do, um or be more transparent about, or whatever under the sun that they feel could be an improvement for the scene, not just for like. And again, I want to preface this, just because someone may have like one little thought of like, oh well, if they told us 2 months in advance, it's like, no, like, there's a process for a reason. It's gonna take time. um but as long as it's not something like that, or something like, well, leak your who you are, you know what I mean, it's, how can they in a sense be able to give that feedback, um and a form would be really cool. Obviously, you're gonna have some BS responses through it, but you just wean them out. I guess until something like that arrives, if it ever does, what would you say is like the best way for someone to be able to share that like ideas or feedbacks they have?
Honestly, like there's a lot of TOs who are still on social media just looking out for these things, or even just bringing those things they'd like to see change with the community safety. Just bring that up to like whatever TO you'd like in whatever organization. If you're
Yeah.
mostly in IPL events, you might as well just say um, like any org head they can probably pass it on to, just like, hey, do you think you could bring this up in like your next signatory meeting if you agree with this? um but like at the end of the day, right, these decisions that are being made are corroborated with the TOs to some degree, because we're not being held captive by splat safety. Like we have always felt that there is some degree of appropriateness to the choices that they make, and that's why we follow them. And as you know, I've said this before, but I'm sure other people are tuning in now, um, that like we are allowed to make our own decisions too. We can
Yeah.
extend bans, we can make them longer, we can do bans that they haven't even considered. So it's not this overlooming force where the committee is just like looking down and saying what we can and cannot do. No, we have autonomy as orgs. We just appreciate their help in any way that we can get it. Um, so I think sharing your feedback in public is fine to spread that like idea, and I think also creating productive discussions around splat safety is going to do a lot of good for the community, because I think when we approach things in ways that are like, I guess, a little bit more gentle, it encourages like a better back and forth discussion
Hmm.
from both parties. Like you can say something really, really like messed up about these people making these decisions. Well, that's not really going to want me to interact with you in good faith about it. So I think the best discussions I've had about splat safety are with people who are actually open to seeing different perspectives on it.
Hmm.
And like, even if you are, I find some people don't really express that in the way that they post. Um, so maybe just, I think in general, the community can do a little bit better to talk about certain things with better sensitivity in mind, and that's ultimately what's going to help us grow, both in like the safety sector and like for TOs running events as well. Like you can say how much you hated Swiss at Riptide, because I'm a hater, but yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't have any alternatives or any sort of suggestions to help make that better, they might not really read that as like something they can do better about. They're gonna shrug and they're gonna go, okay, well, that's just how it goes. Like
Yeah,
you hate it,
exactly. Unless you're
can't
like,
please everyone.
yeah, unless you're like, vocal about, but it's not just that like why you didn't like it, but also what you feel would have been like a better solution.
Yeah. So I guess the main theme of what I'm saying is that everyone has a bigger role in safety than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah.
Rather than just like leaning back and then waiting for a decision to happen and going, well, I hate this. Like there was definitely something more productive we all could have been doing, I think.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Like as much as like some people may feel out there, they're um they don't have a lot of power when it comes to a lot of these things. You absolutely do. Your voice can be heard, and it's just about making sure you're taking the time, even if it's like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, to just shoot a simple DM or a message over with just like some ideas or certain feedback or like we've been saying, just if anything you feel that should be brought to the table, absolutely bring it forward,
Mhm.
and it'll be either taken into consideration or handled appropriately.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking about like social media a lot, and it is largely like the same people who bring up the same points every few months. And I
Yeah.
understand that this is like a very vocal minority of the scene. I just would like to encourage more people who are maybe on the more neutral end of things to bring up their thoughts and you know, maybe not get into like these big Twitter arguments, but like uh share what you would like, because we only get to see what you put out there. So
Hmm. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, because staying quiet. What they say, like sometimes silence is louder than the loudest people in the room. Just because, you're in a sense like really just m- removing yourself from the situations, or just very be choosing not to take part or put yourself in those situations, which is totally understandable and valid. But it's especially if you're on, like you said, on the neutral end or maybe on the opposite end, you don't have to go out and full on argue with people, but don't be afraid of sharing just a slight 2 cents, even if you have to maybe ask for help on how you would like it worded too, because I'm sure people are more than happy to, maybe your friends or just anyone else that you'd like to reach out to, make sure you say something that's not going to, put you in danger or put you in like a horrible Twitter thread argument that most people love to get into.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Cyren, I believe that is the last question that I had for you, since most of them we kind of went into already. Most of them kind of were tied in. So this is the part where I'd like to kind of pass you the mic and allow you to kind of add anything else you wish to add, whether we discuss it or we didn't. Give any kind of shout outs you wish to, whether to your own social media where people could find you, to maybe other people out there that you'd love to, show appreciation to, but the floor is yours.
Shout outs to everyone who has ever been banned by Splat Safety. You given us a job for real. I'm just kidding. Um
Crazy work.
um I say yes, us again, as in TOs. I again gonna disclaim once again for the end of the stream. I am not part of Splat Safety, nor have I ever been. I am simply a TO. Um, but you know, shout outs to Kbot. Without Kbot, I wouldn't be here. And shout outs to MomoCon for bringing out their commentators this upcoming weekend, so we can have a lot of fun and watch some cool sets. I strongly suggest you guys all watch that. It's going to be on IPL this upcoming weekend, Friday to Saturday. No longer on Sunday. So we all get to have fun on Sunday instead. And please go to Get on My Level this summer. Canada is very nice. It's warm in the summer, unlike what someone in the world must probably think. I really hope out of like the 24 people watching right now that no one thinks that. Um, but it'll be nice. There's a boat party which has hopefully not sold out by the time that I'm saying this. But it'll be exciting. It'll be lit. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. I've been yapping for like 2 hours straight, so I feel like I kind of got through more or less like every single thing that I wanted to say. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's what I love to hear. Yeah, this is the joys of this podcast. Feel free to yap, and no shade towards Popcom, but I'm not restricted to having a child. So um
Damn.
shout out baby Popgun Jr. It's all right. Popgun Jr. is gonna come from my seat. I know it. It's okay. But
It'll
Siren,
be
thank you
his
so
podcast.
much. Yeah, exactly. It will be like the Popgun Jr. show. So um Siren, thank you so much for coming on. It's been fantastic to have you here. Fantastic to talk about this with you, especially as someone who has had the experience that you have, and also just where kind of what you do in the scene, right? As especially as someone who's so dominant in the major land scene. Um, it's really cool to get that kind of different perspective and those thoughts, and especially with how long you've been in the scene, the amount of experience that you brought to the table. So truly, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I know it's a controversial topic, but I'm glad someone was willing to take it on and let me yap about it and educate the children.
Absolutely. Listen, I've been a part of like 2 controversial topics this week. What's the third gonna do to me?
Wow.
Sorry. All for one thing in common, and that's to better the scene and hopefully help grow it instead of just keep it at a slow, steady pace. But that's just me wanting things to be better, not worse.
Yeah, we're all learning, we're all developing, so uh
Exactly. Some of us already developed from our frontal lobes, but slowly getting there.
well, I'm kind of getting bored of this whole frontal lobe thing. I think I'm gonna get a lobotomy after this, but
Sorry, I love making the
it's
joke
fine.
for it. I'm 25 next year, so I like to
Ah,
think my time is coming up.
yeah, yeah.
One,
Well,
it'll
you'll
hit
be in
me, and
my
I'll be
boat in
like,
2
I need a
years.
job. I need a super professional job. I gotta start pushing my career. Where's my Roth IRA?
Yep, yep.
Well, if that is all you have, that is definitely all I'm going to have. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. That is Cyren and I from Dapple's channel, the Cactus Patch. Appreciate you all for coming, for watching, for tuning in. Do want to give a shout out to IPL and Popgun, who did hit us up with a raid a little bit before. So truly thank you for that as well. And thank you all for watching, for listening, for tuning in. As always, share your thoughts, share your opinions. More than happy to discuss things as long as it's not a long, uh, ever growing popularity Twitter rage post. Blue Sky's pretty friendly. Head up Blue Sky, please. It'd be nice. Most people have common sense on there, I think.
Yep.
But that'll do it from us here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.